has as while still a little brown chicken, brown cow. Sin City, temporarily, give an explanation. A female character is a Minnesota. Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and if you are new here, my name is Erica and I love books and makeup. In my videos, I talk about the greatest books that I've just read while I do my makeup. I am so excited for the book that I am reviewing in this video today. It is another new to me author, and it is another new to everyone author because this was her debut novel. The author that wrote this book is called S.J. Tilly. Today's book is Mr. Sin. It was sinfully delightful. I'll give you a little information in this video about what this book is about in case you decide to pick it up, and some background information on the characters in this book. I'll also give you my final thoughts and opinions on this story and a little information about the author. Because I do books and makeup, I am going to try a new makeup item for the first time today. It is a brand of which I've used their products, but I have not used their foundation. And so today I'm going to use their foundation for the first time. Foundation is one of those things that is very difficult for me to kind of switch up because I get so used to certain foundations and really stick with the ones that I love the most. So today I'm going to try Dose of Colors, and it is called the Meet Your Hue Foundation. Because I bought it online, I'm not sure if it's going to be a perfect color match, but I usually do a pretty good job of picking something pretty close. I'm sure that it'll be close enough. We'll see. Now that I've said all that and introduced the book in today's video, let's get started. You are first introduced to the female lead character, Sasha. Sasha is a PR consultant. At this time, when the book opens up, Sasha is accompanying her boss, Cheryl, on a business trip surrounding the details for a new client. This trip happens to be located in Las Vegas, also known as the City of Sin. And knowing that business trips with her boss don't usually involve an overnight stay, Sasha is taking full advantage of the fact that she has one night in Las Vegas to enjoy herself. After Sasha's boss retires to her hotel room for the night, Sasha decides to stay at the bar and have one more drink before she follows suit. Sasha prides herself on being a really hard worker, and she ends up spending most of her days at the office or spending most of her nights mentally preparing herself for her long list of work responsibilities. So letting her hair down for a night couldn't be more of a welcome reprieve from all of the stresses of her everyday life. Sasha barely makes it into the bar on her way to go sit down and have a drink when an unwelcome set of paws grips at her arm, stopping her in her tracks. The man before her, eyeing her like a piece of meat, offers to buy her a drink, but Sasha is definitely not interested, even if he wasn't such a repulsive looking misogynist. Now, even though Sasha declines this man's offer, as nice as she possibly can, but also as stern as she possibly can, Mr. Grabby Hands doesn't seem to get the hint. So obviously she's becoming more agitated and annoyed as each passing moment goes by that he won't go away. Her politeness now has become a lost cause at this point. So she quickly scurries away, and she's just about to sit down at the bar when the commotion beside her has her preparing herself for the onslaught of curses that she's about to sling at this guy. Because obviously he is not getting the hint. That is until she realizes that the man who was previously harassing her has his face pressed down into the bar top next to her by a very imposing man standing over him whose dark features were sin-defined. This imposing man that now seems to be saving Sasha from the unwanted attention from the man that she just tried to get away from is not only striking in good looks, but he seems to have a dark and dangerous vibe about him, and she finds herself drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Now, this dangerous looking man hasn't said a word to Sasha, as his attention is still solely directed to the man whose face he has pushed into the bar top, and at this point he's commanding this man to apologize to Sasha. But then after the apology is made, the sleazy man is swiftly hauled away by the man that seems to inherit the dark and imposing disposition of the devil himself. Since Sasha didn't get the opportunity to get the name of the man that saved her, the reference stuck. And when the devil catches her off guard once she's finally settled with a glass of wine, she tries to show her appreciation to him by offering to buy him a drink. Of course, though, being a man of old-fashioned values, he declines her offer, but accepts the invitation to join her at the bar for a conversation. And Sasha learns that the devil indeed has a name, and his name is Vincent. They are both seemingly and mutually attracted to each other, and Sasha becomes very aware of the spark that she seems to have with him. So far, their conversation seems to be easy and effortless, but Sasha is also becoming very aware that the alcohol seems to have given her an elevation in her bravado, knowing that she's in Las Vegas and wanting to take full advantage of the one night that she has in Sin City, and also feeling the weight of their sexual tension. She decides to invite him to her room. But instead of following Sasha to her room, Vincent leads her to his much nicer accommodations in the penthouse of the hotel, which led her to learn pretty quickly this guy must have some money. Their intimacy together was charged with feelings that they'd never felt before or had with anybody else, especially not with a total stranger. And before Vincent woke up the next morning, he'd found that not only was she gone, but she'd left him with a very foreign feeling. And that feeling was an insatiable need that only she could sate. On that note, I'm gonna put my eyebrows on, and I will be right back. I'm back, and my eyebrows are done, so let's get back to the story. About a month later, while Sasha is in her home city of Minneapolis, Sasha's firm is busy in preparation with their new client, Mazzanti Enterprises, for a PR revamp of the company. The goal with this project is to reinvent the reputation of the company, since Mazzanti Enterprises has a history with its organized crime affiliations. The owner of ME has been running the business in the shadows, but the plan for Sasha's PR firm is to bring the owner into the public eye in order to show them that the businessman behind the scenes is a well-rounded humanitarian who also does good in his community. The only thing that Sasha's firm really knows about the company and the businessman running it is its criminal affiliations in its past, and the fact that for whatever reason the owner has been given the nickname Mr. Sin. Sasha's guessing that the nickname is because of the company's affiliations with criminal activity, or because they do own several buildings within the Las Vegas area. Everyone involved in the PR process is expecting to meet Mr. Sin in a formal meeting about the project that is taking place. But as Sasha is preparing her office in the Mazzanti building that she will be temporarily situated in through the duration of the project, she runs into Vincent while in the elevator. And he becomes almost animalistic in his pursuit of bringing her to a top floor office, away from the hustle and bustle of the movers and the construction efforts. When they are finally in the private, unfinished office, he promptly makes haste in intimately claiming her once more. Angry at the fact that he had missed his opportunity one last time in Vegas, when she fled the scene of the hotel room without so much as a goodbye the next morning. But once the intimate encounter concluded, the jerk took a phone call and left her there without so much as a word. And Sasha was left feeling used and was pissed. I mean, that was a dick move. It wasn't until the next day at the formal meeting with the rest of the ME employees and Sasha's PR firm that Sasha discovered Mr. Sin was Vincent. And she realized how complicated her job and her life were about to become. After Sasha's last intimate encounter with Vincent, she tried her best to build a wall of professionalism between them in order to do her job. She knew that her job was to find out every detail that she could about Vincent's past and his current life. Sasha's firm knew that once Vincent's identity was public knowledge, the press was going to do their best digging in order to uncover the unsavory and salacious details regarding Vincent and his family history. And Sasha's job was to be able to find a way to give an explanation of possible flaws and tainted history and turn it around into something positive. At first, Sasha had a difficult time getting Vincent to open up to her. He seemed to be a pretty closed book, but she also had no idea that he was trying to fight off demons from his past. Vincent was trying to protect his present life, most importantly, the people in his present life, from the past that still seemed to haunt him. But even though Vincent wasn't always willingly forthcoming with Sasha about every detail that she needed to know in order to do her job, his past was quickly starting to close in on his present. And the details were starting to complicate things for Sasha in undesirable ways. The relationship between Sasha and Vincent throughout the story, whether professional or intimate, presented itself as a roller coaster ride of highs and lows. They both had an intense attraction to each other and an insatiable desire for one another. But neither one of them were great at communicating those feelings, which consequently led to a lot of misunderstandings and assumptions. Sasha knew that she was an attractive woman, but she doubted herself when it came to Vincent. In her eyes, Vincent was the kind of attractive that was unattainable to her. She'd assumed his type would be more along the lines of a supermodel. Sasha definitely didn't have the body type of a supermodel. She was more on the voluptuous and curvy side. Therefore, the attraction that Vincent displayed towards her, she kind of passed off as out of convenience more than infatuation with her. She also had a very hard time keeping up with his hot and cold behavior when it came to her. She understood and assumed that his cold behavior meant that he was incapable of having feelings for her. She was at least confident enough in herself, though, to know that she didn't deserve that kind of behavior from a man. But since the story is told in a dual point of view, the reader is given a way to understand the actions of Vincent in a way that Sasha was unable to at the time. In Vincent's mind, he had very good reason to keep Sasha at arm's length. Vincent just thought that he was protecting the people that he loved and cared for. And it was one family member in particular and an incident that had haunted their history together that made it hard for Vincent to commit to a woman. Yes, Vincent was oftentimes a jerk with caveman tendencies, but when we read the story from Vincent's perspective, the reader can easily understand that Vincent's apologies to Sasha are not a mechanism for manipulation, but that he truly feels remorse for his actions towards her. And the added conflict of their professional situation just adds to the difficulty in Vincent and Sasha's ability to completely connect with each other. Because unlike Vincent, who can just call the shots since he's the big man on top, Sasha, on the other hand, has a lot to lose. She's just an ordinary woman, and she takes pride in her job, and she still has to answer to her boss, Cheryl. Therefore, Sasha is more concerned throughout the story with keeping the intimacy and the relationship forming between her and Vincent under wraps. I'm going to go finish up my makeup, and then when I come back, I will discuss my final thoughts about this book and where you can find it and a little bit about the author, and I will be right back. I am back and my makeup is done. Since I used a new foundation today, I wanted to give my impressions about it. If you don't remember, it was the Dose of Colors Meet Your Hue foundation. I want to be honest, when I was first putting it on, it was going on a little orangey, and I almost panicked because I didn't think that I would be able to work with it. But for whatever reason, once I had all of my other products on and my setting powder, then it kind of muted that orangey tone. So I really actually like this foundation. It's done a really good job at keeping me matte, which is what I love in a foundation. It played well with all of my other products, which is also a plus. And so far, it's a win. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this book, the author that wrote this book, and what my final thoughts and opinions are on this book and why you should read it. So let's get into it. I absolutely loved the fact that Sasha was a take no shit kind of woman. I really enjoy reading about a female character with that much fierceness. She truly knows how to stand on her own 2 feet in the world, and even though Vincent is an insanely wealthy businessman, Sasha is not at all intimidated by his money, nor does she really have any interest in his money. She makes a good living on her own. Oftentimes in romance novels, those overbearing, wealthy characters try to take over certain aspects of the female's life by financial means. And in this story, even though Vincent does desire to do those types of things, he is a man with caveman tendencies. I love how Sasha puts her foot down because she has no desire to be controlled in any way. I also love that even though Vincent does have this overwhelming need to control the life around him, he allows Sasha to be her own individual. The only time he really seems to cross the line of control with Sasha is in regard to her safety. And as you read the story, you can kind of understand why he feels that way and that his reasons for wanting to control that situation is justified. I thought in this story, both Vincent and Sasha really had realistic chemistry. The banter between them oftentimes had me laughing, or it had me figuratively high-fiving Sasha for her bold and fiery attitude when it came to Vincent. I also thought that the intimate scenes between Vincent and Sasha were steamy and they were well-versed, but I also appreciated the fact that they were not excessive. The timeline of them made it feel like Vincent and Sasha's relationship was based on more than just a physical component. Like they had a genuine connection. I think it kind of allows the reader to empathize with their feelings in certain situations and become kind of attached to the characters as their feelings start to develop or increase. I also feel like this author did a really good job of writing the supportive characters. I thought all of the supportive characters had an appropriate place within the storyline. There were actually many secondary or supportive characters throughout the story that I kind of grew a liking to, especially as they played a role in Vincent and Sasha's blooming relationship. This story is available on Kindle Unlimited, and that is how I read it. This is the first book in a series called the Sin series, and the second book is called Sin 2. Even though this book is a part of a series, it can be read as a standalone novel. I would say that this story falls under the very broad category of the contemporary millionaire romance, but it does have the added element of suspense due to the nature of Vincent's past interfering with the well-being of his present time and the people in it. This story could definitely fall into another category that I typically have a soft spot for reading, but I don't want to name that category because I think it would give too much away of this story, especially since this particular element of the story was a part of the shock and surprise that Sasha experienced when finding out details about Vincent's life. S.J. Tilley is the author of this book, and she is an author that I discovered on Instagram. Based on her Amazon author page, I was able to find out that she's from Minnesota and she lives with her husband and apparently a herd of boxers, which I absolutely adore. And I think I've already mentioned this before, but this was her debut novel, and I think she just did such a great job with this book. I think S.J. Tilley truly has a talent for creating exciting, unputdownable stories with characters that are just too good not to love. I hope you check this book out. I only recommend the books that have wowed me and that I feel connected with, and I would never recommend a book that I did not truly love. And I hope that you guys take some of my book recommendations because I think the authors that I have recommended truly deserve for people to read their creative writing. I hope you like this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any recommendations for me, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you want me to read. If you're interested in any of the makeup I've used today, I will list all of the items I've used in the description box down below. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more creative book review videos from me, please subscribe to my channel and I will do my best to put a new one out each week. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Thank you.